Hello everyone, it's Anna, also known as Book Anna, and today I have another short books video. I really loved making the last one and I saw that a lot of you guys really liked it, and I got some really good recommendations in the comments for other horror books, so I just wanted to do the same this time with the sci-fi books. I again have 10 books that I'm going to be talking about. They're again placed from the one that has the most pages to the one that has the least, but I have one additional book that I put here. Although it does not fit in the category under 300 pages, I just decided to put it there because it is a short story collection and I just feel like, and if it's a short story collection, you don't have to read all short stories in one sitting, but you can just read them whenever you want. So yeah, that's why I put it there. But okay, so we can start immediately with the longest, and that would be Robots vs. Fairies. This one has 373 pages. So I read this book, I believe, 2 years ago, and I remember whilst reading it, I really enjoyed some short stories so much that I put the authors and then try to find some other books that they wrote or some other stories that they wrote, because some of them were really, really amazing. I also remembered that one of them was the story that they took and put in the Love, Death, and Robots series on Netflix, about 3 robots. Complete short story collection really gives you the vibe of Love, Death, and Robots. I would definitely recommend it if you like that series. If you have not watched it, watch it. I mean, I would recommend it as well. The thing that I liked a lot about this book was that it had robot stories and then it would have a fairy story, so you got sci-fi and fantasy, and some stories had both sci-fi and fantasy, and they were all just really fun to read. I don't think that there was any story that I felt really bored while reading. All of them were at least fun. The next book that I have is a book that is, I would say, I put it here, but it is loosely sci-fi. I don't know if a lot of people would agree with categorizing this story as under sci-fi, but I think it is, and that would be Dr. No by Percival Everett. This book I read this year. It is one of the best books that I read so far this year, and I would put it under sci-fi category just because we have a lot of traveling in this book. So they travel by plane, but it's like very fast and they go from one place to another, and there are these weird modern buildings that they're in and that have some weird modern, I don't know what, like gadgets around, and in the end they make this weird machine to do something. But I would put it under sci-fi, and I would definitely recommend it if you like satirical books, if you like humor in your books. I personally don't really like Douglas or Terry Pratchett, but I would recommend this book if you like them as well, because I really feel that although the humor in those books didn't work for me, I can see that humor in this book is really close to that one, but for this one it just worked for me. So yeah, this book follows a guy that is a professor, and he gets approached by another guy that says to him, hey, I want to be a supervillain and I need you to help me to find nothing. And then there's this whole philosophical debate of what is nothing and how nothing is something, but it's nothing, and it's very funny. I laughed out loud a couple of times in this book, and I recommend it to everybody in my life, so I'm going to recommend it to you again. The next book I would recommend is Little Eyes by Samantha Schweblin, and this one is 256 pages long. It is a short story collection, but not in the way Robots vs. Fairy is. This one has a lot less short stories, and they are divided in chapters, so you're reading chapter of each one. All short stories have the same theme. They all follow people who have these little Kentuckys, and Kentuckys are these little gadgets that have cameras on them, and they connect you to a person who then watches you through a camera. So you buy a Kentucky, you turn it on, and then you have the Kentucky like a little pet, and it's really adorable. And the person that is connected with your Kentucky can watch everything that you basically do. And then again, we have like some debates about how ethical is it that somebody can just watch everything that you do and you don't even know who they are because the Kentuckys cannot talk? You have some people that show their email or their phone number to Kentucky, so they start conversation with this person and they have a new friend. Then you have a lot of Kentuckys that are for watching children, which is a problem in itself. I just really like this book and I feel like it's very interesting, the whole concept of having these little Kentuckys. It sounds really weird, because why would you want to have another person spying on you? Well, not spying, but looking at you for the whole time. But I feel like it is not that far from what we currently have and own in our houses. I feel like if the Kentucky got in the market right now, I wouldn't be surprised if something like that became so popular right now. So I would definitely recommend this book if you like sci-fi, but you want to read some sci-fi books in our world, not completely, other galaxies or something like a space opera, but you just want that little sci-fi element in something that is quite realistic. Next book I have was quite a popular book and I think still is. I hear a lot of people talking about this book, and that would be This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal Mother and Max Gladstone. This one is 209 pages long, and when I read this book, I did not really enjoy it as much as I would like. I want to definitely give this book another try, but I know that a lot of people loved it, and I can see why people like it, and I will definitely recommend it to everybody, although I didn't enjoy it personally. This book is written by two authors, and each author wrote one POV, so you have red and blue. There are these entities that go through time and space, and they start to give each other little messages. So first they start as enemies because they are trying to get somewhere before the other one does, so they kind of make fun of the other one in little notes, but then they start talking a bit more friendly, and then it evolves into something more romantic. It is very interesting how it is written, all the spaces they go through and how they talk to each other. It was very fun to read, definitely. I think if you have not read this book, still give it a try. I think that it's something that you will probably not find in another book. I feel like it's a very special book. The next book is a retelling of Count of Monte Cristo, and that would be Countess by Suzan Palumbo. This one is 168 pages long. This is another book that didn't quite fit well for me, but I feel that is because I read this book thinking that it's going to be just inspired by Count of Monte Cristo, which it is not. This book is definitely Count of Monte Cristo, just in space and with other characters, but the whole story is completely the same. I would recommend this book if you still feel like you cannot read Count of Monte Cristo, if you don't have time, because that book is like 900 pages long. But if you would like just a book inspired by Count of Monte Cristo, this one I would say is too close to the original story, definitely. I feel like it is better to go into it thinking, okay, this is going to be completely the same story, but just in a different space with a little bit different characters. Like, for example, in this one, the main character is Countess, not a count. The next book I have would be Slimer by Harry Adam Knight. This one is 156 pages long. This is a book that I read last year, and this one is a horror sci-fi. It is very much a horror book, so be aware of that. And also I have to mention that this book probably has a lot of trigger warnings, and just look them up if you are scared that it's going to talk about something that you're not comfortable with, because some characters in this book are awful. They're like the most awful human beings ever. It's really hard to read about somebody who is like that. I would recommend it if you like sci-fi horror, if you like a bit of a stranded situation, because we follow this group of students who get stranded in the sea, and then they see this oil rig and they come up on this oil rig, and in this oil rig there is like a completely empty experimental lab, and they're trying to figure out what is happening here. I would recommend this book if you like some kind of monster, because there is a Slimer in this book, as the title is telling you. Just keep in mind the trigger warnings. Now we have one classic sci-fi book, and that would be The Time Machine by H.G.Wells. So this is a classic for a reason. This one follows a guy who makes a time machine, and then he travels through time, and he ends up in this civilization of these humanoid things, people. I don't know how I would call them, but they're not exactly humans. And then he just kind of stays there and watches them, how they go through their lives. Again, I would say it's a bit more philosophical. Any short story by H.G. Wells, if you have not read it, I would recommend it. This is the only one that I read currently. I feel like H.G. Wells is a good place to start your sci-fi journey. The next book I have is actually part of duology, but both books together have less than 300 pages, and that would be Fina and Defect by Nino Cipri. So Fina has 103 pages, and I think Defect has like 179. Read them both, it's still less than 300. This is another modern sci-fi, and we are in this IKEA-like store. We are following employees who are told that they need to go into this wormhole that just comes out of nowhere in this store. It just comes one day and then it goes away, and then another day it comes in a different spot, and they have to go into this wormhole and they have to retrieve this old woman who went into it. That's not like in the description of their job. They didn't even know that there are these wormholes happening in the store. It has conversation about capitalism and how you as an employee is never free, because okay, you can say no, but then you're going to get fired. So you actually cannot say no. You just have to do it. You just have to now go into this wormhole and do whatever we tell you to do. Ha ha ha. You can read it in like one sitting completely, because it's really interesting, and they go through these worlds because every world is still into this IKEA-like store, just with a bit of twist. So in one world, furniture can eat you alive. For the last 3 books, I have 3 short stories that I all read in the last 2 days. First one I have is Questions Asked in the Belly of the World by A.T. Greenblatt. This one is 40 pages long. This story is in the world in which humans have this physical voice that is in the back of their heads, and if this voice dies, they get rid of the humans that don't have the voice in their head as well. Everything that you can eat in this world, and there are no plants, there are only mushrooms, and you can eat only mushrooms, and every time you eat these mushrooms you start to glow a little more, and if you're glowing too much, that means that your voice isn't working properly because it's not taking the nutrients that it has to, so it's dying. So that's everybody knows that you have a dying voice, and then they have to get rid of you. And another thing that is very interesting in this world is that everyone is an artist. Everyone is trying to do something magical, something original, but nobody really wants to talk about history. And then we have our main character, who is not really a creative person, but he is a historian. Well, he wants to be a historian. So he tries to find out a little more about what people did before. This world was just so intriguing, and I would love for more stories to be in this world, but you do not get answers to all of the questions. You don't get answer to most of the questions that you have for this world. It's just all, you can just picture what could have happened or what something means, and I really love that in the books. I love when the book is not telling you directly what something means. The other short story that I have is probably, I would say, the best short story, the best sci-fi short story that I ever read, and that would be The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. This one is 32 pages long. It's so well written and it's so good. It's very short. I think the whole book has 32 pages, but like the story itself has like 11. We again have this world, we have this city. Everybody are happy in this city, and everything is so well, and every day is a good weather. And then you find out why. This story reminded me of that question: would you let a train hit one person or three people? It's very short and it's very good, and it packs a hard punch, and it will make you think. Last one that I have is Then Will the Sunrise Alabaster by Benyun Sridanke. This one is 24 pages long. This takes place in a convent, and we have sisters who take care of orphaned children in this convent. And then one day another sister comes with somebody who is a lot higher in a hierarchy, and it kind of changes the world for our main character, because she figures out some things, and she figures out that how oppressed they are in this convent, and they don't need to be. And it has a lot of conversations about religion and some questions about why certain things have to be the way they are. I would just say, trigger warning, if you don't like books questioning religion, don't read this one, because this one definitely questions religion a lot. If you don't mind that, I would say that this one is a very good story to read. I hope you enjoyed this video as well. Please tell me in the comments if you have some other short sci-fi books. I would definitely love to know, and I hope you'll give one of these books a try, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!